Goldfields is the latest mine to place major job cuts on the cards. It plans to lay off over 1,000 people at its South Deep mine. Impala Platinum also plans to shut down 5 mines and cut 13,000 jobs. Over and above that, 58 deaths have been reported at South Africa's mines just so far this year. We ask, could the mechanization of our mines be the solution to so many deaths, or would this just be adding on to the soaring unemployment numbers? Up next, we speak to Olivier from Webber Wentzel Attorneys. Good afternoon to you, Johan. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Goldfields saying these job losses, these looming job losses, aren't quite a done deal yet. But how bad are things going to get in our mining industry?
Well, for Impala Platinum to make a decision to, in fact, close 5 mines, it went through a lengthy process to consider why that is necessary. You know, you need to look at that particular mine. Is it making a profit? Can you keep it going at its current cost basis? And the mine management must have gone through the whole series of considerations before they arrived at that decision. I've also previously said that it is quite a process to arrive at a final decision to retrench. You know, when we get these announcements, it means that it has to follow a process in terms of Labour Relations Act. It has to follow processes in terms of MPRDA. So it's not a done deal. There's a lot that needs to happen to see if it can't be, in fact, reduce the number of people who are affected. To come to your question on mechanization, mechanization is not going to be the easy answer either. You know, I'm not a mine manager or a mine engineer, but you know, knowing about what in fact it entails to mechanize a mine, it also means machines get to play a bigger role, and that means less people. That means that there could be further retrenchments to do that. Our mines, for instance, the gold mines, you now have a mine that's 3,800 meters underground where the gold is dug. Mm-hmm. That's where the reef is. And that is, you know, still needs a number of people to do the work. But if it's going to be mechanized, it's going to reduce the number of people needed.
This conversation naturally has upset the unions, and they are already threatening protests. But what can they do to avoid job cuts? Can unions really save jobs if a mine is saying, we are under financial pressure, we have no choice but to let these people go?
Well, there are already a number of things that they can do. You know, for instance, when there are wage negotiations going on, the demand is for higher, you know, wages, increases beyond what the inflation rate is. And what in fact they should be looking at is also ways in which productivity could be increased. How could we lower the cost base for the mine to make it more profitable so that we have a longer life of mine? And that unions can contribute to in terms of health and safety. The mine management is constantly training employees to in fact achieve zero harm. No one wants to have anyone die underground, but it is in fact quite a dangerous working place, you know, when you work 2,800 meters underground to dig out gold, or 1,200 meters underground for platinum. And you have to abide by the standard operating procedures. So those are the type of things that unions can help with. How can we increase safety? How can we in fact increase productivity at the same time and make the mine profitable?
But are retrenchments always necessary, or do we have a situation here where mines would rather keep all their other comforts but get rid of workers?
I think that's a very difficult balancing act. I think no management wants to, in fact, just lay off workers just to ordinarily save cost. What they do decide on is that particular mine is not profitable if we can't, in fact, have a number of people who are prepared to work at, say, a lower cost and to make it profitable. If we have to maintain the same electricity cost, the same cost for services, same cost for labor, then you're going to, in fact, decide that mine is not profitable. And you could have various reasons why it happens. For instance, your geology at the mine could be such that it's more and more difficult to mine. Your grade of, say, platinum, gold, or whatever that you are mining decreases. Therefore, it is no longer profitable. So it's a last resort to close a mine and to lay off people.
Mining Minister Gwede Mantashe, in the week I was reading, has said that he will face these companies head on should they proceed with the retrenchments. But how empowered is he by law to intervene in such a case and again save jobs?
Well, the first thing is that there are two processes. There's the Labour Relations Act, where you have to consult with the trade unions and those who are going to be affected by the retrenchments. And then there's also the Petroleum Resource Development Act, which in terms of Section 52 requires the mine management to consult with a committee established by the minister to look at ways in which they can, in fact, reduce the number of people affected or even find other alternatives to keep the mine going.
I want to go back to the issue of mine safety. You said earlier no one wants to see people die underground, but when you look at some of the cases that we've had just this year alone, I'm thinking of Sibanye-Stillwater, for example, where you're told of instances where workers who've died were in an area where it should have been sealed off, and you begin to ask why that wasn't done. So what does that speak to? Is it pure negligence or a failure by those who are supposed to inspect these operations to see that they are up to standard and that workers are able to go underground and come back having avoided what should have been avoidable dangerous situations?
I obviously don't want to speculate on what exactly happened in respect of the example that you're referring to, because once an accident has happened and you've had people die underground, there's an inquiry in terms of a Mine Health and Safety Act. The inspectorate comes in and they fully investigate what are the causes for that particular incident happening and the lives which are lost. Now, the problem that you sometimes have is in respect of these inquiries that I have been involved in myself, is yes, there are sometimes mistakes made by management. In other words, that they don't appreciate how big the risk is in respect of certain areas, they don't plan properly, and that type of thing. But there are also human mistakes which are made by the workers themselves. They are trained to do things in a certain way. On that particular day, they just don't follow that particular instruction. They know they're not allowed to go into an area that's barricaded off. They went there for some reason. One can't speculate, but it is a very dangerous place to work in underground. There are standard operating procedures. People are trained in them. All of those are aimed at having zero harm to the people who work underground.
Johan, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That was Johan Olivier from Webber Wentzel speaking to us about the future of South Africa's mining industry. Now,